The Shock Therapy Podcast.
It's that boom, 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 boom.
At that point, electric current is passed between the electrodes in the head.
That shit just kicked in. I just feel like I smoked 1,000 blunts.
For discovery brings with it the penalties of society. Shame, arrest, prison.
Oh, sorry, I was taking life seriously.
I'm over the end dangerous territory. This is dangerous territory right here. I'm in.
I don't know what psychotic means, really.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to the Shock Therapy Podcast for Tuesday, October 13th. I'm your host, Carson McGregor, and today I wanted to play a little game with myself. This game is called Red Flag or Deal Breaker. My sister's friend actually brought this up that this was a game that you can actually buy from the store. It's like a card game, sort of Cards Against Humanity type of thing. You know, you just pull cards, ask questions, whatever. And I went on Reddit, and I found a bunch of people that posted these types of posts of red flags or deal breakers. Now, how it works is you ask some sort of detail about a potential partner, and your job as the person being asked is to determine whether you consider that a red flag or a deal breaker. Is it something that's a little bit weird and would, make your ears perk up? Or is it something that would make you end the relationship completely? So this is a short list of these prompts I found on the OkCupid Reddit, interestingly enough. Not like I go browsing the OkCupid side of Reddit. I don't even know what it's for. Is it about the website and the app? Or is it like just something about dating? I don't know. I typed this prompt into Reddit, and that's the first subreddit that came up with any real responses. So here we go. Some red flag or deal breaker prompts. First one is, asks how much money you make on the first date. Now, for a guy like me, I am not wealthy. Personally wealthy. I don't have a whole lot of money to just go throwing around. I don't have a job that gives me a whole lot of money. I don't have a career yet where I can make a whole bunch of money. Right now, I'm at the college student phase of my life where that's something that's not really in the cards for me, to have disposable income. So now the question though is this a bad quality in a person? I think if I was a little bit older, I would say this is not a deal breaker because it's just responsible. It's just responsible. If you're in your 30s and on the first date you ask somebody how much money they make, I mean, you might want to make that a little bit veiled. You might want to hide it a little bit, sugarcoat it with something else. You don't want to just straight up ask, so how much money are you making, huh? That seems a little harsh. But you got to get there eventually. Why not just cut to the chase? It's like having sex on the first date. Some people look down on that, but hey, we're going to do it. If we're going to do this, let's just fucking do it, I don't know. Now, at this point in my life, though, I think that might be a deal breaker because, I tend to date girls my age, 20. So if that's a big concern for them, I'm not going to label them as shallow for that, but at the same time, it's not something I can be there for. So I'm going to have to cut myself loose out of that, leave pretty early on that date and leave them with the bill. Wouldn't that be some shit? If I was actually making money at this point in my life, I would do that. Somebody asked me how much money you making on a first date. I'd be like, yeah, let me use the restroom real quick. Because that would just be kind of ironic and funny. To be like, I could pay for this. That's why I took you out to a fancy place. But seems like that's all you care about. So here, why don't you pay for this shit? That's fucking mean, actually. That's pretty fucking mean. Dinners are so expensive. Dates are so expensive. That's why I don't go on dates. My dating life is pretty limited at this point. I'm not the type of person that's had a whole bunch of girlfriends in my life, but it's really more out of time and effort. Relationships take a lot of time and they take a lot of effort, and it's just something I don't have the time or energy to pursue right now. So these prompts are just for fun for me. It's not really like I'm looking to meet somebody and I'm trying to figure out what is what's stuff that I won't want to put up with. That's not really what this is. But honestly, I just don't see it happening right now for me. This is not something I'm into. Here we go. Another one. Lives paycheck to paycheck and generally not good at managing their finances. Okay. So for somebody that doesn't have a whole lot of money, I'm pretty good at managing my money. That is one thing I kind of take pride in at this point, because I used to be real bad at it. When I first started making money, 16 years old, 15, 16 years old, got my first kind of job, and I started making some money, I would just spend it all as soon as I got it. I think Chris Rock said, spending that shit like it's gonna rot. That's how I would spend money. So I understand that mentality of just constantly spending money, being a sort of shopaholic. It doesn't even have to be, shopping, going to stores and looking at things, just I'm always spending my money on food. I'm always spending my money on drugs. I'm always spending my money on clothing, whatever it may be for you, what your vice is with money. I get it. I certainly get it. But if the person's not open to slightly changing that part of themselves, it's weird, because you don't want to change a person. That's a big part of dating, is that you don't want to go into it thinking like, well, I can change them in this way, because that's just an unhealthy way to approach it. You got to look at them straight up, and if it's not what you're looking for, then you bail. It's not shallow to do that. If they're not exactly what you're looking for in a person, then it's not going to work out. So don't put yourself through that. Don't put them through that. Don't put them through a bunch of bullshit when you know it's not going to work out. It's not going to last. If there's a major red flag up front, that's the problem with this in general, is that if there's such a big red flag at the beginning, then that kind of sounds like just deal breakers from the start. For the most part, I'm sure that I'm going to find some of these that aren't as harsh as others, but if somebody just is not going to be good with money, is never going to be good with money, and they're always just going to spend it as soon as they get it, that's not a sustainable person to live with or to be with for a long period of time. Because as much as I can try to be responsible, they're going to drag my end down, I didn't do it on purpose, but in college, I was real bad at spending money. I would spend money all the time, and I didn't date anybody, but if I did, and they were financially responsible, I would be dragging them down by being a lot less financially responsible than them, because that becomes a dependent of sorts. If your girlfriend has a lot of money, or she's very good with her money, so she's managed to save a lot of money, and you're in a hole for money and you need something like right now, it's a very necessary thing. You need to bail your buddy out of jail or something, then you're going to go to them for money. And then that puts them in an awkward spot where it's like, well, come on. I mean, we're together. I'm going to get you back. Don't you trust me? And then they're like, I really don't. I trust you, but I don't trust you to handle money in any way, shape, or form. So that's kind of interesting. That can cause some problems. That can cause some tension. So if somebody's just really fucking bad with money, then that's a deal breaker for me. I just can't handle it. They call one or more of their exes crazy. Ooh. Well, what if their exes are crazy? I mean, crazy is such a vague word. It gets thrown around too much. If you call all of your exes crazy, that's probably a sign of something. It's like that old anecdote. If you've only ever had bad roommates, then you're the bad roommate. you're the problem. If it's constantly just problems, it's like, well, you should probably do a little bit of self-reflection there. And I think this is the same idea, but one or more is the variable there that makes this hard to say for sure. Because if they did have like 2 or 3 crazy exes, I mean, what the fuck? They can't elaborate on that. They can't say, well, yeah, he did this heinous bullshit. He came outside my house and, fucking set my lawn on fire. Oh man. If he did something like that, then yeah, it's like, yeah, he's crazy. He's crazy. But if they say, if they don't elaborate, if you ask them, well, why were they crazy? And they say, they were just crazy. That's a bad sign. I think that's a bad sign. When they can't elaborate on it, when from their perspective, because we can only have our own perspective. From their perspective, that person was crazy. That person was terrible or whatever. And they can't vocalize why. Well, they're getting called out on something that they would never think to get called out on. They would never expect that because they've just implanted it in their own brain that this is how it is. This is how that relationship went down. That person sucked and they were crazy and they were this and they were that. And then somebody asks them, well, why? I got nothing. That's a bad sign right there. So this is super dependent on the situation and on whether or not they're able to elaborate. Because some people are just bad at picking people. Some people don't got that skill. It is a skill, by the way, to be able to pick partners that are good for you and you're good for them, that you got good chemistry in all these different aspects of life. Because you can find somebody where you have good sexual chemistry with them, or you have good, back and forth, or, you cohabitate well together. But if you're missing a couple major things, even though you have some of these major elements with that other person, then it's not going to work out. I'm not going to say it's not going to work out because that's a little bit too too firm of a statement on the matter. You can't just say, well, yeah, we're very different on this from this perspective, so it's not going to work out. Well, differences are good. Opposites attract. But if you have horrible sexual chemistry, but you have great, a great vibe, great back and forth, I don't think that's going to work. I just don't think it can work. Because that's a big part of a relationship. For most people. For some people, it's not. For some people, sex is not a huge deal at all. It's not even in their top 10 list of things that are important in a relationship. But I think for most people, that is incredibly important. So, or if you have great sexual chemistry, but you can't fucking stand them, that's obvious. That's obvious that that's not going to work out. So, I don't know. What was the question? I think I just went off on something else. Doesn't realize that they're a terrible cook. Okay, can I tell them? Can I tell them? Can I be honest with them? Honesty is key. Honesty is key in a relationship. So if I'm allowed to, allowed. That's weird. In this world I've built around this question, if I can tell them and they're not going to get offended, well, of course they're going to get offended. Of course, if they think they're a great cook and you tell them they're not a great cook, of course they're going to get offended. It's like going up to it's like going up to a guy who thinks he's just fucking nailing it on the trombone, and you're like, that sounds like dog shit. He thought he sounded phenomenal. He thought he could be in some big orchestra somewhere, but you got to just be honest with him and say, you're not very good at playing the trombone. He's going to get offended, but at the end of the day, you're doing him a favor. You're saying, try something else. Try a stringed instrument. I don't know. Try anything else besides that because you suck at it. People that are bad at singing, oh my God. People that are bad at singing and have no idea that they're bad at singing, ooh, that's rough right there. I think that's more a female thing, because I mean, I could just be making this up in my head. This could just be my perception, but I think that across the board, females can generally sing more often than males can. Like just the bass line, holding a tone, decent singing voice, where you can hop in the church choir and not be a distraction because you sound horrible. I think women are better at that per capita. You know what I'm saying? That could be complete horseshit. I have no idea, but I think I've heard more just random girls sing and be decent at it than I've heard guys. You know, when you see people, your friends or, you know, people in social settings, and they sing along to a song. That's just what I've observed in my own life. So people that are bad at singing and they think they're killing it, ooh, that's a tough shoe to drop on them. And you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. And you don't have to do it, really, unless you're close with that person. And then not doing it is doing them a disservice. So if you're in a relationship with somebody long enough and they're a bad cook and you don't tell them, it's your fault. It's your fucking fault. You're just going to have to eat shitty green beans because you didn't have the balls to say, why did you make these so rubbery? Have you noticed that I gotta get the salt and pepper out and just basically dump the whole shaker on these beans every time you make them? Have you noticed that I do that? Have you noticed that I sip my drink in between each bite as if I'm taking a fucking capsule pill? Have you noticed that I do these things? And if they'll take that advice, if you tell them they're a bad cook, you can tell them delicately, of course, you got to say all these things delicately. You don't have to be a dick about it. You don't have to say like, you suck at cooking. You know, you can be like, hey, do you want to take a cooking class? Oh man. Oh, that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Another tip, if you if your partner is gaining a lot of weight, this is shallow as fuck. This is super shallow, but this is shallow time right now. We are in the sand bar with the fucking sand sharks right now. If your partner is gaining a lot of weight out of nowhere, I mean, first of all, ask them what's going on. You know, be like, are you okay? You know, you don't have to say, like, you've gained 15 pounds in 2 months, and that's a lot. Like, are you stressed? I mean, you got to crack that nut first. But, you know, you just got to start working out. That's what you have to do. As the person observing this in your partner, you have to start working out and then invite them to do it with you. Make it a you and them thing. You know? Yeah, no, that's super shallow. But it's if that's your intention, that's what you got to do. You know, different things make different people happy. Like, personally, I don't care how much fucking weight my partner gains. Unless it's, like, an unhealthy amount. Unless it's, like, you are doing damage to your body. And I'm worried about you. Unless it's that, then who gives a fuck? Messy room, including unmade bed. Okay, well, my bed is in front of me right now, unmade. Whoever posted that, who the fuck are you? You fucking, what are you, in the military or something like that? Who makes their bed? I mean, I make my bed. I haven't, obviously, I just told you that, but, you know, who is considering that a deal breaker in any way? Or even really a red flag? Like, yeah, they're messy. Different people are going through different things at different times. I mean, if their apartment is constantly messy, or, you know, their living space is just constantly a wreck, that there's so many different degrees to this question. It's too vague. You know, if they're a hoarder, that's different. That's different. You know, if they're a hoarder, that's a fucking deal breaker right there. I can't be living with a hoarder. Because, like, what if we want to move in together? I like open floors. I like when the floors don't have shit on them. And I've only started to make these adjustments in my life. I didn't used to be like this. If you saw my apartment in college, you'd be like, what is he talking about right now? He likes open floors. That guy was a fucking wreck. I was very bad at keeping my place clean. And I mean, there was other things going on in my life at that point where I was just like addicted to drugs, and I was constantly going to parties and doing other things and skipping school and whatever. I was in a bad place, and my room represented that. So if somebody's room is messy, it could be the same situation. They're in a bad place mentally, and you got to dig into that further before you just judge them as like a messy person. Like, I think hoarders got something mentally wrong with them. People that are actual hoarders, that's not normal. I don't like to define normal as any one thing because people are so wildly different from one another, but that is not healthy behavior. To just be keeping everything. Like, don't throw those Pepsi cans away. I've just been, I like to see how many Pepsis I've consumed throughout the years. What the fuck are you talking about? That's a little bit much. You should probably see a psychiatrist. Nothing wrong with seeing a psychiatrist. Just see if it's unhealthy. Maybe it's not. Maybe he's like, no, that's perfectly normal. I got all my Pepsi cans right over here. Look under his desk and shit. No, but I don't think that's healthy. Now, this question, going back to this question, an unmade bed, nothing wrong with that. People don't make their bed all the time. A lot of people don't do that. Some people consider it essential as a part of their life. And I try. I really try. My dad had me read that book, Make Your Bed, and it's like 10 things on how to make your life better, 10 simple things you can do in your life to make it better. It's written by some ex-military guy who did a commencement speech at a college, and it went viral, and so he wrote a book on the topic. But the number one thing on that list was make your bed every day, because it starts your day off with a completed task, and it makes your living space seem neater, and if your living space is neat, your mind is neat or whatever. I truly buy into that. I can't explain it super well, but I truly buy into that concept that if you're in a clean environment, you're going to think clearer because there's not as many distractions. When I'm trying to do work and my room is a fucking wreck, I will clean it. I will literally just get up and clean the whole thing because I cannot function productively in a room that's just an absolute shit show. So that's the thing with this is if they let it get to a complete disaster, like a fucking tornado just tore through, and then they don't care, that's a problem. That's a problem. I'm not going to say necessarily a deal breaker, but certainly a major red flag. I am a little bit of a hypocrite on some of these because this is exactly how I used to act, but I'm trying to be better. They pound the same jokes into the dust over and over and over again, thinking they are hilarious. Okay. That's a deal breaker. Everything else I can kind of explain away. Everything else that's been said so far, I can kind of explain away depending on context. But if somebody thinks they're funny and they're not, there's nothing you can do. Because humor is subjective. So somebody out there probably finds them as funny as they find themselves. But if you don't find them funny and they find themselves hilarious, it's not going to work. Never. Sense of humor is such a fucking important part of friendships and relationships, in my opinion, just for me personally. So I could never have a long-term relationship with somebody that I didn't find funny. I mean, especially if they are constantly making jokes. I can't fake laugh forever. I can fake laugh a lot, but not forever. I only got so much I can take before I'm like, can you just stop? Please, it is not funny. And I want somebody to do the same thing to me. If they don't find me funny, I wouldn't want them to just sit through my nonsense. I wouldn't want them to just have to put up with something that they don't enjoy being around. That's ridiculous. So yeah, I think a sense of humor, a good match in sense of humor is very important in a relationship. And if they just don't find themselves to be unfunny at all, if they just are fucking cutting themselves up all day long, and it's not working for you, get out of there. Get the fuck out of there as fast as humanly possible. Pack your bags and leave, if you've gotten that far. I'm kind of assuming all of these are like early on in the relationship territory. You're finding these things out about a person. No, I can never do that though. I don't think it would even happen because I'm not generally attracted to people who I don't find funny. I guess sexually attracted, sure, but that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different ball game. Just because you're sexually attracted to somebody doesn't mean you want to spend a whole bunch of time with them. That's something as a young man you have to kind of come to terms with. It's like, oh man, she's so perfect. Yeah, but like, speak to her. Listen to her. Talk to her for a while. See if this is really somebody you want to be around for a long period of time. I think as a young person, generally, because your sex drive is just higher. I don't know if that's actually, now that I'm saying that, I think men's sex drive is higher at a young age, and then for women, it's higher as they get older. That is some vague science right there that I did not do any research on, so don't take my word for it. All right. They play Dungeons and Dragons. I don't play Dungeons and Dragons, but I have always thought I'd be into it. So that's, no, not a deal breaker at all. People got different hobbies. Like, what if she's into roller derby? I've never seen roller derby or been around that vibe. Just because she's into that, well, she's into something I don't really like. That's stupid. That's stupid as fuck. See, that's something I like in when I'm looking for a potential mate, which doesn't happen often. as I've said before, I haven't really been looking for somebody to date. But when I'm considering who in my life I would date, I hate that word too. It sounds so fucking high school. Who I would be in a relationship with. People that are into completely different shit than me. That's way more attractive to me. I just stumbled so much on my words there. I'm trying to figure out exactly how to put this, but it's way more attractive to me when somebody's into completely different hobbies and interests than I am. Because then, it's like a Venn diagram. In the middle is pretty slim, but the stuff that's in the middle is the important shit, because there's some important shit you kind of have to be on the same page on. But if all the rest of it is different, then that's a great relationship, because then you can tell the relationship is progressing as those circles get closer together. It's never going to become one circle, because then you become clones of the same person, and that's weird. Like, the amount of girls that have gotten me into things that I never thought I'd be into, that's awesome. I just think that's awesome. It's part of being a human being, is, learning about new things, getting new experiences under your belt. A lot of the girls that I've been with in some capacity didn't really know anything about comedy, like stand-up and shit like that. And so I introduced them into some of my favorite people, and then they're like, holy shit, I like this a lot, but I didn't try to get them into underground hip hop, because that's something I like, but I know it's probably not something that a whole lot of people are into if they've never been into it before. So you just got to pick your battles there. Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. Just pick your battles. I think that's it for me. This was fun. This was a fun one. Oh man, what I've learned here today is that I can justify just about anything with good context. I can justify just about any relationship, quote unquote, red flag. I don't have a whole bunch of deal breakers. The only ones are sense of humor, and if we just aren't right for each other sexually. Obviously, there's the obvious ones that I've mentioned, like if you just don't have a good back and forth, or if you don't like to be around them for extended periods of time. Obviously, those are deal breakers. But The only ones really for me that you would find out over time are those two. So I guess my message is just be open-minded with people. Just be open-minded and don't put yourself in this box of these are the only things I like. But at the same time, know what you need. Know what is essential in a relationship for you and don't compromise on that. Because if you compromise on that, then you're going to resent that person for no reason. They didn't do anything wrong. You just resent them because you decided to not be upfront with what you were looking for. It's kind of a fine line you have to walk. But what the fuck would I know? All right. Drink RC Cola. Sway for president. I'll see you guys next week. And just keep it together. Damn, that's a terrible way to end it. Keep it together. Holy shit. Holy shit. Oh, yeah. Wear a mask or stay inside. One of those two. Because the pandemic is still happening, even though everybody's acting like it isn't. People out here not wearing masks, doing their... Whatever. I'm not going to get into that because I'm done. All right. Love you guys.